Today we're learning Perek Gimel Halacha Zayin, Hilchos Chametz U'Matzah. When he completes to check the house on the night of the 14th, and Bodek B'Leila Aboso, whether he did it at night or B'Yom Aboso, or by day Kodim Shishas, Kodim Sheishois before the 6th hour, Tzor Levatel. He has to nullify it. Kol Chomet Shenisha Bereshusoi. Anything that might be left, and he doesn't see it. Here we're going to discuss when's the time of Bittul HaChometz, why you mevatel it a second time, and whether you can do it in the heart or it has to be done by mouth, speaking. In the Peirush we have in Bodak, if he checked it, like the Chacham said he had to do it in the 14th, the Chometz is still in his Rishus before the 6th hour, because afterwards it's no longer in his Rishus. So Levatel, he has to nullify all the Chometz that stays in his Rishus, and he doesn't see it. Because he does not see it, and he didn't find it, obviously, otherwise he would have found it when he checked. And it has to be with Peh, I should say, Kol Chometz Sheish B'Rishusi, any Chometz that I have in my possession, Shelo Re'isi V'lo Yedati, I didn't see it, I don't know it. It is nullified and it's like earth. That's the value it has to me. No value whatsoever. As this is found in Halacha Beis Hey, and the Rambam goes with the shita. The bidul b'lev is a bidul, but still he requires you to say it by mouth. But from the 6th hour and on, he cannot nullify it. Sharei ena b'shus, it's not his midrabanan, because min Torah it's only from the 7th hour. Kikva ne'asav anio. He's not permitted to benefit from chometz from the 6th hour on. Again, the day is divided into 12 hours. The first 6 are the first half, and the 7th hour and on is the second half, and the 6th hour is the end of the first 6th. Now, when he finishes checking, he has to nullify. The Maggid Mishnah cites Psochim 6b as the source, Rabbi Yehuda Amarav, that even though you checked it, you have to be mevatel. What's the reason? Because there might be pieces that you didn't see, crumbs. You can't take out of the house. So the Gemara says that's not something people are going to think of eating. Why do you need to? They're nullified by themselves. Why do you need to nullify them? So it says, we're afraid maybe you'll find a good piece of cake and or lachmaniya, and you'll want to eat it. It'll be over at that moment. The Gemara has a question, Misofik. When you'll find it, let him be mevatel then. And the Gemara answers, maybe you'll find it after the time when it's also. It's not in his rishus, so he doesn't have the capability. It's not his. With that regard to mevatel it, because Rabbi Eliezer tells us, there are two things that although a person doesn't own them, that he's liable for them. And the pasuk made them as if they're his. And they are somebody who makes a hole in the middle of the street, and which is a rabbim. It's not his, but he's still liable for making the hole. Still, the Torah calls it Bal HaMoed Yishalem, the one who made the hole. And somebody fell into the wet hole, and he got hurt, he has to pay for it. And the other one is chometz from 6 hours and onwards. It's also ba'ano, it's not called his, and the Torah made it like it's his, to be over and by Yerah by Yemotza. And all that's not in the rishus of a person, you cannot nullify. The Gemara continues to ask a question. Why do you need to nullify the 14th night? After checking it, to even do so in the 4th hour or 5th hour in the morning of the 14th, just before it becomes also. The Gemara answers they did it to check and nullify then, because then he'll remember. When he's doing something, he'll remember. But in the morning, it could be he'll get involved in other things, and he won't remember to nullify it. We'll turn the page. Because the Mishnah cites Rabbeinu Manoach, who writes that somebody who checks in the beginning of the 6th hour does not have to nullify it. And he explains that Rabbeinu Manoach had the text that he doesn't have to, but it means he doesn't have to, but it really means he cannot to. He cannot, as in the Gemara in Gittin 29b, that a shliach, the last shliach, has to say Fonei Nechtav. But our Girsa is one that says Eino Yochel. It says Ein Ashliach HaAchron. He doesn't have to say it, but here it says he cannot say it. And here too we have that question of text. Now, why do we need to do it again in the morning then if we did it at night? So that goes Maimonides writes that the Ritzvah said a minute gets kosher to be mevatel from the time of biur. And we said the time of biur means when checking it, like Rashi says. Because in the morning you might buy again bread, especially when you're living among goyim and they're making bread, and that was not included in the bittul. And after you eat breakfast, you might leave it over. Therefore, you have to do it again. And even though the Gemara would seem that you don't need to be mevatel after the bdika, so many kosher to go ahead and be mevatel at the time of biur. And the Rav Yor says again that both are better than one. Rabbeinu Menoyach says that this is a takon of the Goinim who were after the time of the Gemara, and he says we have no proof from the Talmud or from neither the Bavli, the Yerushalmi, nor the Tosefta to why you need the second one. But the minig is known is to do so, and it's a good takona, it's a good enactment. Further, he points out that the main nullification in Yontov is before the time that it's also, right before the time of slaughtering the Pesach, as it says, and we know that that means the day before Pesach, and we learn from the Posik, when the time of Bittul is when the time of Isur Chometz comes, which is at Chatzois midday. Just that our Chomer Mesakin to be mevatel at night after the B'dika. Therefore, they were noig to be mevatel even by day. So the man Bittul should be on the Reise. And if he wasn't mevatel on the 14th, since he was mevatel after the B'dika, he's not over on Bal Yirah. But the Rambam is of the opinion the Iger the Kiyam Mitzvah Tashbisu, which is the Bittul, it precedes the time of the Isra of Achilo Menat Torah. And even though the Hacham said to get rid of it and to nullify it at night after the B'dika, it cannot take away the need to mevatel Menat Torah, and therefore the Hagoinim said that we have to go back and mevatel to remember that Menat Torah the time is at the time of biur in the morning after we've eaten in the morning. The Beis Yosef asks a question on what the Rambam says you should say the bittul, because in Perek Beis he says it's enough to do it in your heart. Why then do you have to utter it? Why do you have to say it out? So Beis Yosef says bittul, we don't find the Lashon in the Gemara, but that's what the Goyim use, and we find such a nusach in Yerushalmi. Rav says so Shema Kol Chometz Sheish Li B'Terech Beisi Ve'en Yodei Boy Yivoter. We find in Yerushalmi that the language is he should nullify it. So he's seeing he has to do it by mouth, because Rav says he has to say it. That's the Makor is in the Yerushalmi from Sochem Perek Beis Halacha Beis. The Bach says, going to the Torah, there's no chiyuv to mevatel with your mouth. It's only a minig, but the Rif and the Rosh don't mention that Nisofik you should nullify with his heart. Thus, it would seem that you should say it by that they also were of the opinion that it should be said, and we say the Kol Chamira, we say it in Aramaic, even though it's enough to say it in the heart. And this is Kavanos Rambam to say it in the heart, because the Chomer Mesakin, that the Aboidik, the one who checks, has to nullify it with his mouth, with any language that he understands, or to use the wording of Kol Chamiro, Mechamiro Dike Bershusi. Means Hashem, in the next year we'll learn Perek Gimel Halacha Ches.